make sure that you're with me.
Sure,
And
totally. Okay, I'm just trying to go live on Facebook. Perfect. Just about 30 seconds, by the way, will be online. Okay. Okay, Vaiduria, namdu Facebook Live, I think, is not working.
okay,
So then we will continue the session on Zoom itself, then no problem.
perfect. I'm anyway doing a screen record, bro. If you want, I'll send it to you.
Illu record ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀನಿ, so no problem. So it will be available for both of us then. Okay, perfect. First and foremost, I would like to welcome each and every one of you for being a part of today's episode. Today we have with us Vaiduria Lokesh, who's an internationally certified makeup artist, who's an beauty, travel, and fashion influencer. She's also a curator of Yarna Exclusive, which I'm sure she's going to talk about as a part of this interaction today. So Vaiduria, thanks a lot for coming on this chat session today. It's seriously a pleasure to host you. I've been seeing a lot of your Instagram posts on makeup and beauty and the kind of tips you're giving for people like me, not working out, but then I've got an amazing kind of, at least look at me growing my hair and all that. So it's interesting to see the kind of content that you're putting out, Vaiduria. Thanks a lot for joining in. Before we start, if you could share to our viewers about who you are, what has been your journey in terms of career and your college life. If you could share that to start off, that'll be like a beautiful thing to start with.
Okay. Hi, Yogi. Thank you so much, first of all, for reaching out to me and considering me worthy enough to be able to sit here and present my story amongst like another couple of people who are probably stuck at crossroads, not knowing what to do. Exactly where I was a lot of years ago. But on the other side, yes, thank you so much for considering this as a mainstream profession, which most people still don't recognize. So, you know, for that itself, a very good feeling. To kind of give you an introduction about what I do and where I come from and how did the whole glitz and glam industry happen to a normal Sita Sada girl from Kodandrampuram. Let me take you through my story. So to start off, I was never inclined into the beauty industry or the fashion industry. Very honestly, I would run miles away from good-looking people.
Okay.
Or anything to do with organization or beautifulness or like, you know, just beauty by itself or art, I would run away from it because I would consider myself someone who's like super not creative. And also considering the fact that I have a dusky skin tone as growing up and, you know, being chubby, not having the ideal norms of sticking to the ideal society's perfect girl idea. I think these insecurities pushed me to kind of go out there and really understand what is it that makes any woman a perfect ideal woman. So according to the society standards, again, I am, my idea of it has changed a lot for now. But if I have to go back and talk to my 10-year-old self, probably this is what led me to go out there and explore opportunities. And my only opportunity or my only goal was to be able to find a makeup product or a brand that I could put on myself and not look A, like a clown, two, like somebody just threw cement on my face, like all gray. Or for a matter of fact, you know, it's also the fact that makeup by itself as a practice was very heavy when I started out back in 2010 or 11. If you go back, makeup was mostly, you know, on the theater medium. It was on the film medium. But when it came to Aam Janta, people would say like, no, thanks. I'm good by myself. I would not want to use your makeup. So that was the time my whole fascination for makeup began. And that kind of pushed me to go do a course in cosmetology from VLCC, the brand. Further, once I did my course in cosmetology, I realized that I was not really enjoying a lot of, you know, skincare or hair care as a matter of fact, because cosmetology again involves salon services, it involves skincare by itself, it involves trichology as a subject by itself. So I was still not very convinced. I was 19. Let me be let me take it to reality. So all this happened when I was 19. I got off college, I was doing my correspondence, so literally nothing in life. I was just at home chilling, if I could say. And all this because I had some health issues. I was not having the mobility to go out and do things normally. So this was my whole approach. So I went in for a cosmetology course for 6 months in VLCC. And knowing VLCC, it's such a known brand right now. But 10 years back, it was quite a disaster, I must say, because also, firstly, I come from a background that is completely different. My parents are like north and south pole of their careers, I can say, and what I am doing right now doesn't even come on the same thought process. My dad's a professor, my mom works for a bank, and all this makeup and cosmetology was brewing when my brother was doing his PhD, mind you.
Wow.
So now imagine the pressure you will have trying to figure things, such real things like this, when someone's already doing PhD. So due to his PhD and the fortune of that, I got to travel to US. That's when I actually opened my eyes out and saw the difference that the world was at, and probably we as a society were when it came to physical appearance. I noticed that women are more confident about themselves. Women are, more level-headed. There is a sense of everything put together so beautifully. You cannot point out to something and say, hey, what about that? So this kind of appalled me, and I was like, how can these guys just look so good and put together all the time? And mind me, they didn't look heavy. The makeup didn't look like, okay, that was a lot of time that's spent in there, or that is like 10 layers of makeup put on the skin. Whereas Indians, when it came to specifically South Indians, even like one touch of extra Pond's powder will turn you into another alternate human, if you feel me. If especially when you're like a South Indian dusty person.
Totally,
So
totally.
I actually went to almost all the known international makeup brands in New York City. I gave them my face and I said, listen, I need to look good. That's my only criteria. So if you could do something to make me look good, do it. I would sit on their chair, and I realized I went to about 3-4 brands, and like I said, each artist has a different approach to judge your face, your skin tone, or your face shape and stuff. But unfortunately, none of them could get my skin tone right. I would still end up looking 4 shades darker than what I was, wherein my problem in India was they were making me 4 shades lighter. Wherein on the Western countries, they were making me 4 shades darker, which means I was being used black, Negro skin tones were the shades that they were using on me. And that is when I realized there's a very subtle difference to skin tones. And I could physically see the difference that I am more brown, she is black, and he is white. So I could make that, sorry, I could make that color differentiation. And I realized that maybe if I'm able to understand the undertones and the basic of the colors, I'd be able to understand the art better. So that was one trigger point for me to realize that cosmetology by itself did not excite me entirely. Very honestly, I was not kicked about doing facials. I was not kicked about cutting hair. I was not kicked about coloring hair. So makeup was probably my only, escape out of the game plan, honestly, if I look back at it right now. But once I did makeup, so I did a makeup small course, which is included in the cosmetology course in VLCC. I hated makeup then, because the products that were used were at least outdated 10 years before, and you could smell like kerosene in each product. So whole what do you say, the excitement you have for a new career, or forget career, for a new subject, diminished even more. And my hatred for the whole field of makeup just grew thrice or 4 times much bigger in that whole 4-month period. And after I went to the US, I could clearly see where we stand, where the others stand, and there is a gap, there's a bridge that I could literally use to my advantage. And when I came back to India, And I realized if I do my course anywhere in the world, I would still not be dealing with the issue that I want to deal with. I want to be doing makeup to people who look like me and who can accept themselves, who look at the mirror and say, hey, I still look at myself and I still look like myself. So I came back and I did my research and found this artist called Puneet Saini. She's based out of Mumbai, who's Anushka Sharma, Alia Bhatt, all these top-notch A-stars makeup artists. So I got to do my course with her. While I did my course with her, I also got to intern for a movie called Ladies versus Ricky Bale, which is Anushka and Ranveer
Oh
Kapoor.
yeah, I remember. Yeah.
Starter, yeah. So I got to work on that project. I was 18, naive. Everything that you're not seeing today was what I was 10 years back. And in 2 months, I ran back to Bangalore. I had a job that was finalized in Doordarshan, Bombay, but I just ran back to Bangalore overnight. I called my parents and I said, I can't do this city. The city is too much for me. I would, be really scared to go talk to auto rickshaw fellows. Like that was the kind of, what do you say? I was a very closed person. I was not outgoing. I was not very confident to talk to people. So once I did makeup, I could see the amount of difference I felt about my way, about myself. And that's when I think it hit me that if I can feel this happy, doing this on somebody else can translate the happiness into thrice more than what I'm feeling right now. And that was where I decided that maybe this is what I'd like to do. But I was still not sure. I had to do it because, listen, I had gone against everybody. I convinced them that this is my dream job. So I had to chase it. I had to do something with it. So I came back to Bangalore. I started a salon chain of my own called Posh Styling Zone. Right after I started Posh, this was the time when 2011 nobody understood makeup. So clearly makeup was the last thing people thought about when it came to wedding, whereas it's the opposite now. Like even before the guys fit, you have your decorator and your makeup artist ready in today's zamana. So that was the full difference in the times. And then I literally called everybody. I was from Shatapuram College. My classmates were just in their first or second year of degree, so I know everybody's getting married. The entire Madu clan will get married in the next 6 months. So I called everybody. I just need pictures. If you can let me paint your face, I'll give you a nice Facebook picture or you can put up. So that worked for my favor. I literally worked for credit or for free for close to a year. And during this phase, I reached out to celebrities, movie makers, basically wrote to everybody and anyone that I had access to and I could write to and explain them that this is my purpose of trying to do the course and this is the kind of difference I want to, translate. So if you could give me a chance, I'd love to show what I could do. So this is how it all began. And after doing makeup for the last 9 years, I realized that being a Gemini, it's too hard to be doing the same thing over and over again. You reach this momentum where you'd be like, bas, or kuch nahi chahiye. So as kind of like born to that burden of being a Gemini and you can't do monotony for long, I realized that I needed to find another creative venting out space where I could literally use all the creativity that is getting jumbled up, because when you're talking about a market like India and even a smaller market like South India, right? The skin tones are very similar. The the mindset is very similar. The kind of look they want is very similar. So your creativity basically dies a very bad death. You're doing the same old cut, copy, paste. It's the same gold eye, it's the same smoky eye. So for me, I needed to unleash my creativity in other areas. And that's when I sat and thought, okay, now I'm in the wedding industry space where all are the gaps that I noticed 10 years back in one small little phase. So that's when I realized that so many people have the money. Let's be honest, in India, weddings are about how much you can spend, right? So people have the money, people are doing everything and anything to kind of go out there and feel like this is like the dream they were waiting for. But most times it could be financially, it could be a choice of taste, it could be just lack of knowledge that you end up choosing the wrong things for yourself when it comes to an attire, going against your own body shape, when it comes to jewelry, going against something that's so clashing to the outfit. And then comes obviously the decor where it's just 4 sheets of album that they give it to you and then you choose the color and the backdrop, and that's about it. So that's when I realized that all this can be a little more what do you say,
Customized.
customize, make it more personalized for people, where it's relatable and it becomes more of a unique memory to take back. You know, even looking at your wedding backdrop can have a sense of memory to take you back if it has some amount of effort or personalization involved. So this things came into my mind, and that's how Yarna exclusive that you just mentioned a couple of minutes ago
Mhm.
came to life. Last year this time is when I bought this little business to life. So we started jewelry rental to bridge the gap where people are not
Mhm.
able to really afford buying real jewelry and still not compromise on the good look. And of course, event design. So this has been my not so short, but kind of briefed up summary of my 10 years, my career.
Thanks a lot, Paidoria, for sharing that. So when you were talking about makeup, as you said, right, there was this spark in your eyes. And then when you spoke about Yarna, I could see a complete, like, you were so into it and so excited about it. So can you tell us a little more about Yarna on that note?
So Yarna is something that I started with my right now husband, who
Mm-hmm.
was my boyfriend about a year ago. So he proposed to me a year ago, and with one earring, and that was the starting to the whole Yarna thing. So that's when the whole reality that oh no, ab mujhe bhi shadi karna hoga hit me. Until then, I'm like, I am smarter than the rest of them. I am only dressing people every day, but I'm not falling into this trap. I'm not getting married, all of this. But that's when reality hit me that abhi theek hai, abhi I'll also have to get married. And then I started kind of understanding that jewelry rental or jewelry, as an industry is a very untouched business, for a matter of fact. And what you have already available when it comes to jewelry rental is your Gandhi Bazaar and Jayanagar 4th block, where they give you the same 12-year-old designs, and anybody who sees you will tell you, "Ha, ye rent pe liya hai," because top to bottom will be like the same pattern. So this was something I wanted to break, and I wanted to say, like, anybody, even like a middle class person, could wear something that looks like real diamonds and not really feel the hole in the pocket, and still, live that dream for that one day, because it's quite irreplaceable in the head. The whole idea of your wedding and your bridal look is quite irreplaceable for a woman. So that's how Yarna came into picture. We never intended to get into the designing, event design part at all. We were only concerned about the jewelry rental.
Mm-hmm.
1 month into it, I had a call from another fellow makeup artist called Vinyasa Hitla, and she was opening her own makeup studio. So she called me and she said, I'd also curated an event called Bridal Sutra. I don't know if you do know about it. So it was a wedding extravaganza. We created this about 2 years ago. So
Mm-hmm.
it's a wedding industry all under one roof, where you have wedding vendors who are able, you can go walk in there if you have a wedding, and then you can pick up wedding vendors of all sorts. So I had curated an event with another friend called Shachina Hegar 2 years
Mm-hmm.
back. So considering that I had done Bridal Sutra and everything, I had a lot of people who were not, there were not many people who were dealing with the jewelry business or giving scope to it. So we decided to start that. And so she asked me, like, you've been doing Wedding Sutra, Bridal Sutra, you must know a couple of event designers. I want someone to do my store opening. So seeing me, I just jumped on the idea and I said, listen, can I put it to you? And she was like, yeah, but if you're okay to do this, I'm okay. And I just said, okay, give me 5 minutes. I called back my fiance and I said, do you want to give this a try? Because we had remotely started an event design company back in 2015 for a mere 6 months, where again, I felt like my creativity is dying and I had to find another alternative. So that was when I had come up with this idea. So I relived the idea. I spoke to him. I said, I think we should do this because right now we have better understanding together, and we're able to, like, see, we're on the same page. Ideally, we can see things together. So that's when we started. That by chance call turned into our first gig, and it turned out fantastic. And post that, we've just been lucky to have friends and family supporters and trust us. We were special events, though we've not marketed and gone big yet. I don't have the courage, honestly. Having been in a different space for so long, I do not feel entirely confident to enter a new space and say, hey, bring it on. But I am taking baby steps, trying to understand each event we do. Trust me, Karan and I look at ourselves and like, how did we pull this out? Like, how the hell did we do that? Because how huge it is. It every time they bring about a new thing, and you'd be like, oh my god. Like for example, we did a running marathon 2 months back. We did it with GAIL, Gas Association of India, and we did a cyclothon and marathon. Trust me, I didn't know what doing a route was, or I didn't know podium. I didn't know the whole fact that you have like a flow of events for your MC, right? These were the things that I wasn't aware of, because these are intricate things that you know when you're in an event company. But as an outsider, for me, it's just like, I'm in the background to look pretty. I will do everything to make it look pretty. But reality is, it's much more than prettiness. It's not always about making it look pretty. There are clients who have expectations, and it might not look pretty to your eyes, but that's what they want at the end of it, right? And I realized that each time we were thrown into a huge ocean, and we kind of swim our way back into the shore, and we'd look at the event and we'd be like, not bad, bro. We actually pulled that off. So that, I think, is the attitude you need to start anything that you start new with, because obviously nobody is going to sit and tutor you 100% about any industry or any sector, for a matter of fact, because insecurity, hello. If I am going to tell you everything, then, high chances are you'll take over my job. And that's the kind of mindset most people come with. And you can't say that's wrong, because everybody thinks about themselves and their position better.
Of course.
So I realized that only if you fall out there and make mistakes and do it, you'll be able to learn. And that's what we're doing with Yana. We're taking baby steps. Each event we do, we're so honest to the client. We're like, listen, we've not done anything like this before, but trust us. We will, work hard as it's our event to make sure that it happens in a way that you're imagining it to be. So this has been the whole Yarna exclusive journey.
Whoa. So when I look back, right, when I look back into whatever you've told, right, there was a specific portion where you told you were not confident about yourself. You were chubby, you were insecure. From there to being confident, this is something that I'm going to ask you from a personal experience for sure. So this is the same thing with most of us, at least in India, are going through. We're not confident of who we are or what we feel, what we look ourselves in the mirror. We're like, oh, why can't I look better? Why can't I look good? Why can't, in my case, as I told you before the call started, right? So why do I have curly hair? Why can't I straighten it out and all that? So what would be your, say, how did you come out of it? First, let me ask you that. What made you come out of it? I'm sure that's not going to be a simple answer for sure. And along with that, now that you've come out from this whole trap of I'm not good enough, what would be your suggestions for other people if they're going through something similar? How can they come out of that particular a black hole?
Firstly, thank you so much for asking such an amazing question. Like, I live with such questions most times when I'm interacting with somebody, because it's so important you really, put out a story that people can connect to. And this is the purpose why I'm doing makeup, honestly. So I'm able to connect with people that used to feel like me and who can look at a different perspective or a persona going on. So when it came to my initial, so let's split this into three phases. Let's say I was probably a caterpillar, then I had my metamorphosis, and now I'm a butterfly. I honestly believe this is what's happening with my life. I have gone through a proper metamorphosis, and my career's literally held my fingers through this metamorphosis of mine, and I don't owe it to anybody but my career. To start off with, and like I told you, insecure, not gone to school. I was homeschooled, so no social, behavioral understanding or how you present yourself to the outside world. There has not been a lot of people interaction, or a lot of things that I missed out during my childhood due to a lot of things. So there was a huge burden on myself, or the way I looked at myself. And the whole medicines and weight had added to the trauma even more. I was 98 kilos, bro. So I used to have like a 38 inches waist size. Okay. So I have gone through severe depression. I have gone through eating food and throwing it out. I have gone through phases where I've gone for my birthday shopping, not found anything to wear. I have stood in the middle of commercial street, wept my heart out, and I said, I'm not buying jeans until I lose weight. And I walked out one day. I still remember. And I was hardly first PUC, Right now, if I have to look back and say, I would be like, didn't anyone slap me when I said those things and say, what the hell? You should just buy your jeans right now. These are things that probably nobody even acknowledges when you're growing up in a society like India, because they're constantly trying to put you on the pedestal and make you feel guilty for what you are going through, honestly, which you have no much control over. And most of the times, the circumstances are way beyond your reach or your, what you say, you can change certain things about your body or your weight or your color. There are not much things that you have in control. So for me to understand, while I started doing makeup, I noticed that people looked at themselves differently. People looked at, the whole process of makeup as not something as an escapism. So that's where I realized the whole confidence that this is not escapism. It is about enhancing yourself. This is about improving every single day to make yourself look 10 times better than what you are naturally on an everyday basis, rather than where escapism is like probably you do a facial surgery and you have this thing fixed. Well, that can last for 6 years or 6 months. None of us are sure about. So that happiness and one example I'd love to share, if that's not going to be too draggy. So I mentioned that I had a salon in Malleshwaram. So opposite to that was Seva Sadan. It's an orphanage. It's quite a well orphanage. And it's a girls orphanage. And there was one girl who was supposed to get married, 19-year-old. And since I'm of the same age and they used to see me come every day to the salon, handle the business and everything. And these girls weren't allowed to talk to strangers outside. So one day these girls leaked out and they came and they're like, Akka, you look just like Priyamani, and fascinated. They're talking to me and they see that couple of movie stars keep coming and going to the salon because I was working in the movie industry then. So these people are really fascinated. And this girl comes up to me one day. She's like, I'm getting married. I just have one request. Can somebody from your parlor come do my makeup for my wedding, please? So I said, I will come do your makeup as a gift to your wedding. So just tell me the date time. And I landed there. I did her makeup. So this girl does not have access to TV, does not have access to the outside world, just lived in her own four walls. And you know how, submissed they are, honestly. I did her makeup and I showed herself after the makeup. And you won't believe the word she said. She said, Akka, nanu serial all act madbekalla, nan yaki madve aagta idini. I had goosebumps for a girl who has, not even awareness about self-love or confidence or perspective, all of these things, to look at herself in a way like that and be so confident. Wherein I've been doing makeup for the last 1 year, I still don't have the confidence she has when she looks at herself in the mirror. And for me, that was the turning point. I said, boss, this is a magic tool. Now you can use this to make people look at the better side of themselves, or you can just not use it. Simple as it is. You can just use it as a money making tool, or you can use it as a purpose. So that's where I chose purpose over money making. And I really saw that reflecting day in and day out. And you spoke about insecurities and you said most of us have been there. Most of us are still there, very honestly. I work with celebrities day in and day out. Each celebrity, you name anybody I worked with, the minute they sit in front of me, my mirror and my chair, the first thing they'd go close to the mirror and say, you see the skin here, it's a little damaged. You see my nose, I want it a little sharper. No, there's no hair here. This. And you are standing there so taken aback. You're like, woman, an entire population is out there idolizing you and your beauty features. And you, in front of me, are sitting and criticizing your own self. This is the irony of it, right? And, that's when I realized that you'll always look good to somebody else. It's just you who are so critical about yourself that you judge yourself X, Y, Z times about everything. Something so small as this hair out could be bothering me, but if you don't even give a hell about it, right? It doesn't even cross your mind. So that is human brain. You tend to be a lot more critical,
critical of yourself.
yourself, especially about yourself. You might be a little more less relaxant with others, but when it comes to yourself, you get extra criticizing. And that's when I realized that you just have to do what you got to do. And I took this as a mission to kind of turn myself around. Every time I dressed somebody and I saw them feel positive, for me, looking good did not give me that positivity. The fact that I could turn somebody else into something so good gave me the the confidence and positivity that, hey, I am a super tool. My super tool is that I don't have to look good, but I can make somebody else look good. So that was the whole turning point. And from there, I started looking at myself entirely differently. And also the constant pressure that I was surrounded by good looking people, right? Like 24 hours a day, I'm around people who are dieting, people who watch what they eat, who are about the products they use, everything. And I'm this one choppy thing standing in between. I'm like, I'm hungry, give me food. I'm hungry, give me food. So this kind of helped me reflect. There used to be so many times when these actors used to sit and just go all about how beautiful my eyes looked, or how amazing my skin tone is, or how amazing they think my body shape is, for a matter of fact, even though I'm heavy. And for me, this used to be like, listen, if they are saying it, maybe they mean it. That, and because they understand this whole concept better, the whole beauty game better, I believe, that I trusted them. I started believing that what they are seeing in me is the real me. And I started putting aside the inhibitions I had about me. So I think a lot is to do with surrounding yourself with the right kind of people who are constantly not reminding you of the well or the black hole you don't want to dwell in clearly. And most of all, I think it is just a positive approach. And I think as you grow, you will be a lot more accepting about a lot of things. For example, a year ago, I would not dare sit on a video call or even probably a family selfie without a lipstick. I had an insecurity in my head that probably I don't look good without a lipstick. So today, for me, that is a battle I've conquered from within. That I am able to accept myself wholly and fully, and still sit with zero amount of makeup, though I'm a makeup artist, and still be confident about my skill or my art. Because at the end of the day, makeup does not define me, but me doing makeup defines me. So that I think a huge confidence booster, and something that helped me have like a 360-degree look around to see where I want to fit myself in.
Got it. Whoa, that was kind of heavy too. But then I think it's going to hit the right chords on people who are going to watch it at any point of time, right? And that's absolutely.
I'm sorry.
Not at all. This is
so
absolutely like a.
Connected to all these things, and just have to talk about
the moment you talk about it, right? Your eyes lit up. That's the thing that I could remember, or that's what I'll remember. Okay, coming to the main focus of today's chat, right? So now there are a lot of people who are interested in makeup and they believe that they want to choose makeup as a career. What do you think should be their steps, or how do you think they should go about this whole journey?
So I would first say, let's bring it down to beauty as a career, because beauty industry is vast, and makeup is only 0.1% that is visible to you because of makeup artists in their lucrative lives. Let's be honest. It's not that you would not recognize what really goes on in a makeup artist's life, except for Instagram giving you constant update about how fancy their life is. But the beauty industry is quite vast, and there are a lot of opportunities in today's time, which did not exist when I myself started out probably 10 years ago.
Vaidurya, 1 second. I think there is a lag in the video and the audio at your end.
Okay.
Are you able to notice that?
It's actually working fine in front of me. As I talk, I can see.
Okay, I'm just.
Do you
checking.
see that?
No, I hear your video first and your audio comes later. But anyways, continue, Vaidurya. Sorry about that.
You sure? You want me to rejoin?
Now it's better. Now it's better.
Okay. All right. Where was I?
Yeah, beauty as a career. How should
So
people
when
go
you
about it?
consider beauty as a career today, the beauty industry has evolved. Each part of your body has been distinguished as a separate industry altogether. Like for example, you have hair industry, you have the makeup industry, you have the skin industry, then you have the organic skincare industry, then you have the the superficial surgery industry with the beauty, then you have the laser treatment industry, latest being the lash and nail industry. This has taken the world by the storm of late. And in India, the trend has been quite delayed in catching up. But honestly, if you've traveled anywhere across the world, you can see that people can step out with body hair, but they will not step out without a set of neatly done lashes, fake lashes on the eye. So this has become a norm across half of the world right now, and India has still not reached that potential market. So if you are listening to me and if you are on the crossroads thinking, what is it that I should be doing? Excuse me. Not just about your interest in beauty, but let's be honest, you need to be making a smart career choice, and something that has demand rather than you are going to go there and create a demand for it. So right now the lash industry is a big booming industry, especially for India. And the nail industry hit entered India back in 2008 or 9, but reached Bangalore only by 2015 or 16. So
Okay.
that is the kind of a void that was there in within India itself, with the industry kind of spreading its wings. So I'm pretty sure that the lash industry is very similar on the same graph right now as the nail industry was, and this is going to be the next most sought after thing, because we Indians are blessed with a lot of good things. Let's be honest, like good genes, good eyes, good hair, everything. But most of us are also the society is quite uh, uh, dismissive when it comes to like you even if you want to dress up a little too much and go out to work every day, people would look at you and say, why, just take it easy, go slow. Itna nahi chahiye, right? So in a time like this, and women constantly seeking self approval and self validation, more and more services or artificial attachments or implantations like this are going to be a way for them to seek out. And this is the truth of the beauty industry going ahead. The hair business is going to be booming with a lot of wig makers, extension makers, because the whole uh, beauty industry is now taken a 360-degree flip. It's not anymore about natural beauty. It's not anymore about stick to your roots, but now it's on an experimental spree. And people right now want to look. Everybody, even I want to sit here and look and create my own version of Kim Kardashian and say, hey, I look very much like Kim Kardashian. So all of this trend is catching up, and social media playing such a big role in the way your career or your business is projected. All of these small little industries that you think are so funny, but actually if you technically look out there and go see, they are the ones who are going to be making noises in a couple of years coming ahead. Also in cosmetology, trichology is a brilliant subject to kind of focus on, because the pollution, lifestyle, everything is leading to people developing a lot of hair issues, just like me and Yogi discussed before we got on the call. Ranting about his curly hair, I was ranting about my bald patch. So yeah, this is going to just get worse because of all the environmental factors, our nutrition, lifestyle, everything. So trichology is going to be a really sought after profession, and trichology is the science and study of your hair. Um, so you could always consider that as an option. And when it comes to cosmetology, again, you have surgical side, you have the medical side of it, you have the aesthetic side of it. Aesthetic side includes medi centers, like there are a lot of these new age medi spas, if you've heard of them. It's like a facial costs 10,000, and I'm not even kidding, because they don't use hands to do the facial, they use machineries to do the facial. So this is going to be the beauty industry. Yes, I'm serious. So I was invited to review one such place, and luckily I went in to get a free service done. But I was appalled. I was like, wow, the technology has reached a place where people want to spend, and when they want to spend, they want to spend on something that gives them an experience over a good time. So this is, I think, my 2 cents on understanding the whole cosmet, and to put it all together. The cosmetology industry is always been on the ice, but it's not something that can lose a lot of eyes or interest very quickly, because people go everywhere. You come back to your house, you look at your mirror, you still go back to these set here, and you're wondering how to fix any of it here. So I personally feel that this is a great industry to be in. And secondly, if you are someone like me who thinks everything from the heart, then it is a super duper satisfying job. I can promise you go to sleep like a baby, because you've just make sure you've impacted somebody about when it comes to wedding. For me, I have made a difference in somebody's beauty of their lives. When it comes to probably an aesthetic practitioner or a therapist, you know that you've made a huge difference by taking off that one beauty mole of a person's face that makes a lot of difference to them and their future ahead and the way they look at it. Or for somebody who is an acid attack survivor, if you are a face faxiologist, then you're able to fix that, then that's another level. You're satisfied to a next level that you've actually changed somebody's thought process about this. So for me, anything to do with beauty has a lot to do with psychology and therapy from within, and the bonus is you get to do both these things together.
Totally. I think you've given us like a whole overview of the industry. Along with that, based on what you said, right? For the first time, I feel the whole beauty industry is all about giving people hope and confidence.
It is.
That's how I'm seeing it. I never had this kind of a perspective till today, right?
See, makeup is a therapy, Yogi, because colors, it's all colors. And, it's on a gloomy day, if you notice, just try this experiment, your girlfriend, friend, anybody. Just notice on a day where they're really angry or clumsy or not to the best level, just ask them to go put on a lipstick. And you will see the whole, difference of character or personality in seconds, because the colors have a soothing and calming effect to your body and your brain. And so when it comes to your rooms, they suggest certain shades that are pleasing, that are going to keep you calm, that are going to keep you in a good phase of mind. Makeup is just like that. It can make you feel like, from drag to wow in like seconds, and it's not a lot. And I tell my clients, if you can look 10 times better than what you are, why not? Right?
Totally. It's just that these things are not told to us, right? And okay, I'll come to the next question. I think that will probably answer this, right? So till probably a few years ago, this was not considered as a mainstream career as such. And today you see, this is like a most sought after career because of at least the visibility or the attention that a lot of people get, right? But what are your actual perspectives of the industry? What do you think is this all industry is going towards?
I have a funny story to share. So back in 2011, when I did my makeup course and I opened a salon, of course, my family went all grand, like it was my mini wedding to invite the whole world, right? To start for the salon opening. 80% of them are lecturers, mind you, and who come from 1960s era, my father's friends and everybody. The first thing they said was, "Sir, nimaglu hajam business, right? If you understand what hajam is, it's barber." And for me, I was first offended for a short period of time. I was like, how can just somebody just say that? It's a very demeaning thing to say. But going ahead, I found humor in it. I was like, every time they try to point that out, I'd be like, makeup artist. There's a lot of difference. So, for me, I myself could notice, or I enjoyed the practice of the whole therapy or the whole process of, letting people know that these are two different things altogether. Even when I was working with a brand like MAC Cosmetics in Orion Mall, we used to have at least 10 customers a day who used to come in and say, threading madra, pedicure madra. Be like, in MAC, you're supposed to be wearing all the makeup that's available in the store on your face. If you pass by a MAC store, you know what I'm talking about.
Totally.
The attitude is everywhere. And then when people come to you like that, you're like, especially for a person like me, wearing all that attitude is a whole new game. And then I'm wearing that attitude, and you come to me with this humor. I want to go back to your level, and I'm like, Auntie, it's not the right place. So this, all these things, showed me a clear difference of where I began. And today, I have the same father's friends' daughters who come to me to do a course, and who look at it as a profession. Who today the same colleges call me to give a talk, or so many other places, newspapers recognize me. There are people who talk about me. This kind of brings in a lot of pride to my parents. So for me, more than me kind of looking back at this 10 years from where I started to now, I'd love to see it in their eyes, because they are the innocent ones, right? So they had no idea about this industry. They had no idea about what this boom could be or could not be. For them, all that they cared about was their daughter getting out of four doors and doing something, time pass. So she's keeping herself occupied. So that was it. And today, they find it really hard to believe that people can look at it so respectfully. And like I, acknowledged you also calling it such a mainstream profession and making me feel good about it. We've come a long way. Today, I have 80% of my students who are software engineers, who are IT consultants, who quit their full-time job because they're just not able to do the monotony, or for a fact that they've always had the small passion of dressing somebody up, and they just feel like they just want to do that and be fine. Also, because I understood that it's a very lucrative industry, because it's about your skill. It's not about your raw materials. That does not cost you too much. It's not about anything. It's only about the kind of time you want to spend and the experience you carry with you that is paying you. Today, a lot of people, when they quit their full, highly paying jobs, like my last student, she was going to be the VP of a company. She said she put down her papers just before she was given a VP promotion to take makeup as a profession. I say they have some guts to do that, right? I would not do that. But again, these are things that drive you into the unknown for you to figure out what you are doing, what you can be doing the best at. And today, the whole makeup industry has taken a flip. Everybody is out there trying to, you know, do all kinds of makeup jobs possible. But the truth is, when I started out, it was about hardly 25 makeup artists in Bangalore, and today we are 850. So the competition is killing each other left, right, and center. Makeup artists who are already in the industry do not have enough jobs to keep up with, because a lot of newcomers are there doing work for free. A lot of newcomers are there who are doing it for giveaway prices. And I'm sorry to be sharing this, but honestly, we all makeup artists use the same brand. We use the same phones. We use the same editing software. Like, tell me, where do we differ? Nowhere, right? We're all trying to portray the same finish. We're all trying to portray the same thing, and we're all trying to sell the same thing. So if I am charging an X amount and somebody is charging minus X amount, then it's fair enough for a customer to choose them over me, because we are in a very economically challenging time. So if I have to give you a suggestion about what industry specifically within the makeup industry to look out for, hairstyling is a huge industry. People, there are very few players in the hairstyling game right now. Very few players in the draping game right now. Like draper is a profession. Can you beat that?
And is it a mainstream profession? Let me ask you this.
It will be. It will be very soon, because not many of our generation people do know how to drape well, and also draping is an art. So going ahead, people are already experimenting. You're seeing like some classy drapes coming out every time an actor is on a red carpet. You see one new style of sari out. So draping is a great profession, but I don't know if it's going to be a mainstream profession. But if you're looking to make some good bucks, then you can just do sit at home private lessons, teach people how to drape their own sari. That is like a Ambani business plan, because people in India who don't know how to drape sari are higher than people without a mobile phone.
True, totally true. I totally agree on that. So I remember some of my friends had come home on that note, right? Just like a quick story. So they work in multiple of these MNCs like EY, KPMG, like in Infosys and all that, right? So this is like a small function. This is, I don't know, what is it called? This, all these girls come to your house, right? I don't know what function is that. Some Mahalakshmi, some festival is there. Okay.
Okay.
So all the
Okay.
girls in
You
the
had a good
neighborhood,
time. All the girls were
all the
home.
girls in the neighborhood come to your house, right? So suddenly, I don't know how the topic became, and then someone spoke about draping sari, and then someone asked my mom, like, why don't you help us understand how it is done? So they literally always like 15 people sitting there and trying to learn from my mom how to drape a sari. Wish I had the brains to monetize at that point of time. I didn't, but then that's how it is. Many of them don't know.
But wait, if I can make you feel jealous at this point,
Okay.
so I had gone once to give my interview.
Vaiduria, we are not able to hear you. Vaiduria, we lost you.
A job in Amazon. So Amazon.
We lost
Can
you
you
in
hear me?
between. Yeah, now I can hear you.
Can I start over?
Yes, please.
Okay. So one very funny story that would make you feel equally jealous about some professions that exist that you don't have an idea about. I was interviewing for Amazon, and Amazon has this online cataloging that they do, right? For every product, they shoot models and everything. So they also hire makeup artists. So being a makeup artist just does not restrict you to do bridals. You also have opportunity with big software companies. I have interviewed with Cisco Systems. I have interviewed with Flipkart. I've interviewed with Amazon. So most of these e-commerce or huge brands, Cisco, my scope of job was basically to do touch up for all the CEOs, MDs of different companies who join in for a conference, online conference.
My goodness. Okay. Now I'm
Yeah, it's
excited.
a real job. I interviewed for it in 2013, my friend. I was offered
Man.
65,000 a month back in 2013. But I could not do Malleshwaram to Belandur, and I gave up that and chose MAC Cosmetics job. But yeah, going back to the story, in Amazon, one of the days in the shoot, I was taken aback by one particular person's job role. And this happens to be a stylist, a male stylist, whose job is ideally to make sure all the Ukrainian models' lingerie sit in and are unbuckled and buckled properly all day long.
Okay. Let me just take that in for a moment.
Yeah. So all his job is to hook the bra, unhook the bra, place it together, and say go. And he's paid 1.5 lakh a month back in 2013.
Whoa. This is like,
I
I
still,
have I have no
this
words
was the
to.
same case I had back then. I was like, bro, is your job for real? And like, this happened for real. I came out and made sure I called every guy friend of mine and I said, what are you working as? Sorry, go die. It's not worth it. Whatever you're doing in this world is not worth it over what that guy is doing there. So there are like tons of job profiles like that, and beauty industry is always
Vaiduria, we are
going
again losing you.
to be a very well paid. Why that from scratch? I don't know what's going wrong, man. Is this fine?
Probably the internet. No problem at all.
1 second.
Yeah.
I am both on Wi-Fi and mobile data, so I still don't know what is not
Can you
working.
choose one? Can you
I
choose
switched
one of them? Can you switch off one of them then?
just in case. Okay, I'll try
I think whichever.
Wi-Fi. Just see if that works.
Yeah, this is better. I think it kept switching between Wi-Fi and mobile then that way then possibly.
Could be.
Okay, so you were saying about you called all your guy friends and then told them,
Yeah.
guys, you
So
just should die. No point
yeah,
living
I
anymore.
said, what is your job? Like, seriously. And this was the time all my friends were like struggling for Vivas, engineering, and I was already out there doing my work, right? So I used to call him like, don't waste your time. Don't care about that attendance shortage. The world is big. You can think bigger. You can dream bigger. And there used to be times where my friends used to go for interviews right after engineering, and they used to come back with like 10,500, 12,000 starting salary. And not trying to boast or not trying to be any rude, but I have had circumstances where I've paid my barber. I'm not calling him a hairstylist because he is a barber. He does only men haircuts. I have paid him 60 grand a month. Okay, so I would be like, bro, again, just
What are you
reflect what
doing?
you're trying to do with your life.
Crazy.
Right? So I right now when I look back at those times and I look back at how people in fact did not look at me seriously or did not take me seriously to now where I am, my whole tag comes as a certified celebrity makeup artist. And so many times, like even you mentioned, I feel jittery around a celebrity. I make sure everybody understands that I work with a celebrity. I ain't no celebrity. So the whole difference is too much difference. And it's actually fun. I won't deny that, because you get all these extra attention and people think you're all fancy and everything. Um, but I think that's the perk of a job. And if a job does not elevate you from your natural ground, then I don't think that is kind of working the best for you. It needs to kind of keep you in the air sometimes, once in a while. And that's the beauty of any professional job. And that's what gets you back on your foot the next day, is that whole feeling of being in the air, at least for a minute or two. So that this industry definitely gives you.
Beautiful. Thanks for sharing that. I'm sure that many of them are considering this as a profession for sure. Vaidurya, we did touch upon this fact that you did a certification, one at VLCC, which you did not have a great experience with, and you did not endorse it for sure. And after that, you also spoke about Puneet Saini from Mumbai,
Yes.
with whom you
Yes.
did a full-fledged. I don't remember what course it was, but do you
It's
think
a
these kind of
makeup art.
courses? Do you think these kind of courses actually help? If yes, should students look at taking up these programs?
Yes.
What kind of a commitment should they have towards the program? How should they go about it? Because there is going to be a financial and time
Wonderful
commitment into it,
question
right?
here,
So,
Yogi.
what should be
Wonderful
their
question.
mindset when they get into something like this?
Yes. So, like we know, all industries are commercialized by a point that they become well known. And unfortunately, makeup has become one such industry where everybody is trying to loot you from all sides with respect to trainings. It could be about education.
Vaidurya, we
Today,
lost you. We lost you.
should I switch to
Yeah,
mobile
you
data?
said the word training and then we lost you. Yeah, sure. Why not?
Can I
We could
start from
experiment.
first?
Yeah, you said training and then we lost you, but then if you could start from first, that'll be amazing. Hello, hello. Because I was not able to see. Yeah,
Can you repeat your question, please?
this is going to be very difficult. Okay, so
No, just
Vaidurya,
a gist. Just a gist.
yeah,
What were we
sure.
talking about?
So primarily, I was asking you about. You said you had done two certifications. One was with BLCC, where you said you did not have a great experience with it, and then you spoke about a certification with Puneet Saini at Mumbai, right?
Yeah.
So when someone's looking at creating a career in makeup artist or becoming a makeup artist professionally, these certifications will surely help. But there are multiple angles to look at it. One is going to be their commitment, what kind of a thing they should expect out of these programs. In terms of commitment, it could be both in terms of time, attitude, the effort that needs to go in, and of course the financial side of it, right? So how should they look at this particular aspect in a complete holistic way?
I must say that's an amazing question. And as every industry kind of treads on the upper graph, it becomes extremely commercialized. And the beauty industry is on one touch phase right now. I should not be saying this, but I am very close friends with all my makeup associates or makeup fraternity, makeup artists. And each one are running an academy of their own. Each one of them are doing a course of their own. And what is the difference between me and the rest of them, or probably most of them, I've taken a backseat in this regard, is the fact that if you're going to be making this an extremely commercial space, then the art loses its value. And that's what has happened right now. People are charging aspiring makeup artists anywhere between 4 to 5 lakhs for a 15 to 20-day course. What happens is, this is not a mathematical formula book that you just read a book and at the end of those 15 days, by hook or crook, you manage to learn the formulas, you're out there, you're doing what you can do. But this is more about a skill. It's more about putting yourself out there. Each time you need to use a part of your brain to imagine something, to look at the end result. You're always going to be working backwards, whereas every other industry would probably go from the start basic of it. Here, you're imagining the end look, and then you're going to break it down to how you want to achieve the end look. So, to kind of put it all into a small nutshell, people have made it very, very commercialized, and yeah, it requires a lot of practice, which people are not really giving a lot of importance to. So, my first request to you is first choose a mentor who's not only Instagram worthy, but who's trying to put across the knowledge that they have within themselves to you. Recently, I did a course after 2.5 years of break because I am a lecturer's daughter. Education is in the family, and for me teaching is something that is very close to my heart, and my dad's always told me that if you cannot teach something good, just don't teach something bad. So that stayed with me forever, and I have never considered teaching as a money making option, because honestly makeup itself is money making. Let me be honest, I've made enough. So I don't want to be looting people with the whole hope and aspiration, and that's what I see is happening to a lot of people. And it's not just a couple of lakhs that you lose, or a couple of months that you lose out of your calendar, but you're losing a hope, you're losing people's trust in you, you're losing people's judgment in you, and this can land you in a really dark place. And this is something that I personally feel a lot, and why I do not do regular courses, because if I'm churning out 15 students every month, I am creating 15 rivals for you every month, which means I am not giving you a scope of improving your lifestyle, your standard of living, or your art, for a matter of fact, without giving you an opportunity to outshine yourself or do anything that you've learned. So for me, the more you're going to join somebody who's super commercial, or join somebody who has a big bang fancy academy, all about Instagram worthy stuff, all about getting actors to give out your certificates, it might help in drawing people's eyes, but it won't help in trying kind of keeping your tummy filled for a long time. So my couple of things that I would like to point out is have the kind of commitment to understand that it's not an overnight art that you can learn. It's very similar to cooking. Even though you've not known cooking for a long time, it seems simple when you read a recipe online. It seems simple when your mom is doing it out there. But when it comes to your time to cook, सब कुछ पड़ जाता है. So it's simply similar to that,
The way you put it very subtly.
I'm sorry about the language,
No
but
problem.
it is like that. The salt can get messed up. The oil can be too less. The oil can be too much. The choice of dal that you picked can be extremely wrong, which is exactly what happens with makeup as well. You could be using the wrong brush for the right technique. You could be using the wrong product over a wrong skin type, or most of all, you could just be doing it all wrong for your lack of understanding, or your lack of knowledge. And when you become a freelancer, this is something I tell all my students, that when you are a freelancer, you are a horse with two eyes closed, because you tend to believe what you're doing is right. You do not criticize yourself too much, even if you have a very bad experience with a client and she's yelling at you. I know, I have been there. I'm honest about it. I have been there. I have thought to myself, you know what, it was a client's issue, I did a good job. But I have reflected upon it 15, 20 days later, and I've thought that maybe it's not just the client's issue. Maybe I am at fault. Maybe these were the things that I did not live up to their expectations. So these are things that you would not really be very critical about when you're a freelancer, or when you're working on your own. That you do not take people's opinion positively, or you're not doing on improvised criticism on yourself. Everything is just to please yourself for that minute. Make sure you're making that buck, and then you feel good about it. You post a picture on Instagram, 10 people say amazing, and then you're like, huh, I'm good. But it's a lot more than just this much. And the more you are able to put yourself out amidst people who are in the same field, at least initially when you start your career, work with brands, work with people where there are experienced artists around you, who are able to constantly show you how reaching A to B can be done in 10 other ways, instead of just drawing a line from A to B. This is something this was the biggest lesson I learned at MAC Cosmetics. I went and joined MAC Cosmetics just out of boredom when I had a full-fledged 50 lakh business running on the parallel side. I had my salon, I was working on movies, but I still wanted to go join MAC for the fact that I wanted to see how good I am at it. And I don't know if a lot of creative industry people feel this way. You have to help me out here, Yogi. That you always feel you're like, a by chance product. You're working on a fraud. Like in your head you feel you're a fraud. You're just, everything's just happening by spur of chance, and it's not like a real thing within you. I don't know, I feel it all the time. And I've seen this with a lot of actors and a lot of creative industry people feel the same way. There is a lot of self-doubt. You're always feeling like, what if I get caught now? What if I get caught now? Every makeup that I go to do, I feel like it's the first time I'm doing makeup. I have butterflies in my tummy. Just before I go to makeup, I am shouting at everybody possible. I yell at everybody that I meet before I do makeup, I yell at them. So that is the kind of stress I walk in with. But that's what helps me. If I'm not that scared about somebody criticizing my work or somebody putting me on a pedestal and pointing a finger at me, then I would have taken this much lightly. And when that happens, you don't go out there and outdo yourself. So, which means that you will stick to doing what you know to do the best, and you will never experiment or go and excel about doing something new.
Oh. I'm like at a loss of words based on what you said.
No, but this is my everyday experience, and this is something I tell my students, that it's good to have that fear. It's good to feel like you know nothing just before you enter your client's room, because that fear will put you on your toes to, prove it to more than, I don't know if it's about proving to them, but you need to prove yourself that, hey, I was wrong about the self-doubt I had about half an hour ago. Like, I know my shit. I haven't forgotten my shit, right?
Totally.
So, uh, things like these, you need to understand that, be a little more open to criticism, be a lot more open to learning knowledge. Choose a mentor who has a belief system, or basically who has a certain how do I put that across. um, I personally put myself as a natural glam artist. I am not good at transformations. I'm not good at gaudy makeup. I'm not good at doing, like, before aisa tha or after unrecognizable changes. I'm not that artist. But that is I'm sorry, don't be laughing, but that is a sector of makeup
No,
where
totally.
are very good at that area. And I am not one such person. So for me, I am only about, if I see your face, I know how I can make it look 10 times attractive, making sure it still is your face. So choose your mentor based on your liking or your taste, first of all. If you are somebody who wishes to work with real people doing real time job, then you need to find a mentor who does real work. If you're looking to work with prosthetics, if you're looking to work with the movie industry, if you're looking to work with special effects, look for somebody who excels at special effects. Even if their regular glam makeup sucks and they do good SFX makeup, that means that is the kind of training you need to be getting for yourself. So these are small nuances I think nobody tells you, and nobody told me, wish that somebody told me, that you'll have your own genre and you don't have to be good at every part of makeup. It took me a couple of years to come to this understanding. Every time I would see my fellow other makeup artists do something like really glam, I would be like, why can't I think of these colors? Why can't I ever touch these colors and pick them in my hand, though I have access to them? It's the very fact that if I cannot imagine something, I cannot translate it, right? So
Right.
your imagination can only allow you to a certain point, and you need to be sure about you're following the same gut route. Otherwise, you will be on a different plane, always unsatisfied with your work or always questioning your authenticity of your work. And that does not really help you in a long run. And unless you know your shit, people will not take you seriously. For me, it was quite a struggle because, like I told you, we come from a very confused society where people would ask me, Yogi, when I had a salon, you have a salon. Why do you have hair on your hand? You have a salon. Why are you still so dark?
God.
Give me birth, yeah, I can't help. They didn't have a salon, at least when they were making me, right? To kind of change things right then and there. But this is the kind of society and the kind of questions I've been asked, I've been put to answer. And every time I've been in a situation like that, I think finding the answer to shut these people off has been one step climbed. The minute you are able to find an answer to shut somebody else, you found an answer to your next door. I think you found your key to your next door, is what I believe. So I would just say the commitment that you need when you're doing makeup as a freelancer is early mornings, and super early morning, really horrible. And you smell of jasmine first thing in the morning. That's even more horrible for someone like me. I detest two things in my life: sunset and Malipu. And these two things that I have to face every single morning if I have to make a buck. Sunset, I mean, sunrise and Malipu, not sunset. Sunrise, I'm not a morning person. I can't wake up early, but by 3 a.m., if I'm not up, my job is screwed during season. So
True.
this is the truth with, you know, the career. When you're working with bridals, your day will, especially in South India, your day will start as early as 2 or 3 in the morning, and you of course have the rest of the day to your disposal. After 6 or 7, by 7, just before the world wakes up, I'm done with my work most days. So that's even amazing sometimes. Apart from that, understanding the challenges of how do I put it across, the whole rich client and the middle class client. And it's very true that the people who have enough will never pay you enough, and people who don't have enough will always try to make sure that they're not letting you down. And this has been a constant experience for me. So handling clients, making sure your payments reach you, there's a lot of following up to do. So it's not just a 2 hour job that you do and you're out there, but there's a lot of following before your client books you, after your client books you, delivery, being on time. Time is your biggest friend here. Time and sanitation are two biggest things. If you're not on time and if you're not clean, nothing can save you and your job, honestly, in this industry.
Beautifully put. Okay, I have a question that I want to ask you, but I'll come to that post this current question that I have in my mind. So you've spoken about what it looks like a career in makeup industry or the beauty industry. You've touched upon how their journey should be or what they should look forward to in the whole industry. You've kind of covered almost everything. Now I have this question that we ask all the speakers, and then this is something that we want to drive towards, right? So the question is, what are the top 3 or 5 skills that any student who's looking to pick up, say, a career in the beauty industry or in the makeup industry, right, should well verse them with, so that they're at least successful in whatever career they choose? What are those top 3 or top 5 skills according to you?
Top one for me, I think, is presenting yourself. You need to be able to see. You don't have to wear makeup to prove somebody that you can do makeup. It has been something with me. People find it hard to believe I'm a makeup artist because I don't usually walk around with an inch of makeup on myself. So firstly, presenting yourself, not really physically, but kind of knowledge wise, you should be sound with your knowledge. So when somebody throws a question at you, you should be able to surprise them with the amount of knowledge you have in that field, rather than how well you're contouring or your face looks. Firstly, that. Secondly, communication. Communication is a very important tool when it comes to makeup, because it is the kind of connect you're creating with the client, the comfort you're creating for the client. And if you're talking about actors, you are entering a space that most people don't get to. You are actually entering their most intimate space. You spend most amount of day with them, more than their family members, more than their husbands or boyfriends get to do, because you're on set with them from morning 5 till evening 11, and about 6 days a week. So when they get you into a space like this, it's very important you keep your trust. It's very important you're able to communicate the right way. You're able to know what should be spoken, what should not be spoken. Another important thing is to have a sense of aesthetic sense towards everything. So when you look at something like most of the clients would look at you as a genie, because they think that you turn them into like something else all the time, right? So when they show you an outfit, they want you to have an solution for every problem they have with the outfit. For example, I don't have the bangles that match this, so now I have two options which are north and south to this outfit, but you, my friend, are going to be making the right choice as to what shoes goes better. So I personally feel you need to have an aesthetic sense of style, and even aesthetic sense very clearly, to help people put things together or throw perspective at people. So when a customer comes to you with an outfit, if I have to go out and imagine an end look and show her this is what I'm imagining you to look like, I need to be able to know the keywords that I search to get those images out on Google itself for me to translate it out. So understanding these small nuances, small details that you want to give importance to, and translating that to your client, again, communication is a very important part. Aesthetic sense, because people trust you with how they end up looking towards the end, because they don't take chances of telling you what to do. Most people, they let you do what you're doing. Another important quality that I could say would really save your ass in this industry is timing, like I mentioned, and humble. I think it's always good to be a learner and always seek learning at every point from everybody. Even when you're working with brides, talk to them about their skincare, talk to them about their skin. You learn a thing or two about a product that you're not aware of, which is working wonders for this particular person's skin. And chances are you'll end up with a lot of people who have the same similar issue or a problem, and it's good to educate yourself every now and then as to how each one of them is dealing with a certain scenario themselves. So you have three options to dish out, because trust me, when women ask you a problem, they've tried 10 solutions to it and then they're coming to you.
That's a good tip. I think I should make a note of it for sure.
It is, Yogi. Women do not just approach you unnecessarily. They have a lot in their head. So
True.
if they've not found their answers from within, or with whatever amount of research they're able to do, only then they make it a point to come out and ask somebody else. So you need to kind of be sound, and you need to kind of make sense out of what you're speaking. And learning is very important, because so many times there are 10 things that you could learn from somebody. Even when you're teaching somebody, you learn 10 things out of it. So always be open to criticism. Most importantly, sanitization, like I told you, is a very, very important element in this whole industry, because you're dealing with people in very close quarters. When Corona started, I don't know if you read this post, but my post was like, "Dear Corona, I deal with people's nose and mouth every single day. So, thank you." That was my status. So you're literally dealing with people's eyes, people's mouth, people's nose, where they can have internal allergies and you're not too sure about, or they would not bother letting you know about it. So you don't want to be the breeder who's passing it on to an entire clan of women out there who are trying to look good. So understand, and also I personally suggest keeping up with the style, keeping up with the industry and the trends is very important. So if you are somebody who dedicates an hour a day at least to know what it's like a stock market, right? If you're doing a trading, you're going to be checking on the current affairs, what are the next company breaks, who's having a meet with who. Similarly, when it comes to beauty industry, each day there is a new hack, each day there is a new product that's in the market, each day there is a new chemical that is doing x number of things to your skin or your body. So keeping yourself updated, spending an hour every day to see what are the latest things, what are the trends that top artists across the industry are following. Or right now, along with just being a makeup artist, it's not enough. You need to be handling your social media so much more better than doing your own makeup, that if you can't handle your social media well, then your art also does not really get translated. So a lot to learn, constantly try to put a lot of elements together. And I personally have this module has worked for me personally, because I've never kept my business and my personality separately. So even on Instagram, even on Facebook, on any social media page, you would still see a part of my life, and then you would see a part of my work, what I do. So for me, it's important that people look at me as a person and then see the art that I do and connect both of it together. And that is something that helps on a long run, because you cannot be a happy person just good at your work and go on with work. It just can't happen that way. So there are a lot of things you can pick up with respect to the internet having so many access to so many things that weren't available before. And of course, it's very important to keep yourself updated, keeping yourself updated not only knowledge wise but product wise, your physical kit wise, and making sure people are seeing what they want to see in your kit. Honestly, if there is a new launch in the market, they want to see it in your kit to be validated for themselves that they didn't make a bad choice about choosing you. So there are some literally small little industry secrets like this that could help you on a long run to just match up to the industry standards of being a good artist.
Beautiful. I think you've given a whole overview of if someone's got to start off from where should he start and where should he end up, or where she should end up. I think you've
I
covered.
really hope I've given justice to that.
I've written about 4 pages of notes. I think I'm going to summarize for sure as I'm doing it. So one of the questions that I also wanted to ask was with respect to Corona and COVID, and especially when you brought up sanitization. But before that, we have another important question, because all through this whole discussion, right? You've always mentioned mentors, importance of mentorship, and having a mentor is good. At least about I've written it down 6 times based on our conversation, right? And you also told, if I remember right, you also told that you did not have someone like that. You did not have someone who could help you or support you in terms of mentorship or giving you the right knowledge and all that stuff. So, what did you do in that case? First part of the question is that what did you do in terms of not having a mentor? What are the actions that you took, or people who followed, or like I don't remember this Indian mythology character who had a virtual guru who was teaching the Pandavas and Kauravas. He never got Ekalavya, yeah, something like an Ekalavya story. Did you have some sort of a virtual guru that you're following? I wanted to get your what do you call ideas on that? What were you doing in that?
Actually, to kind of give you an oversight on that, honestly, I did not. I went to Bombay to do my course, right? First of all, and when you come from a city like Bangalore, where you're still even more under social than most people are, okay. So I was a gawar when I entered my Mumbai makeup class, and even today, my mentor, including people who were at the class, cannot believe that I'm the same person. So I went in, I was a 19-year-old, I was the youngest in the class, and I went in with one salwar kameez into a Bombay makeup class, dude. Like, beat that, okay? And I have some oiled hair. I was literally Jussie Jaycee koi nahi hai, man. Seriously, nothing different than that. I had never entered a salon till then. I used to like save up some pocket money just to like trim my hair maybe, but no waxing or no real big deal services ever. So I realized that once I kind of ran away back from Bombay, right? I realized I was on my own. Nobody, first of all, could judge me because nobody really knew what I did. It was new to me, so nobody around me knew what I was doing. So nobody could really point a finger at me and say, "What are you doing? This is not right. This is right. This is wrong." So I lacked that criticism at that point. And one big support for me was when I started working with movies. That is just 3 months into my career. I started working for a movie called Lucia, which was Pawan Kumar's movie, and Shruti Hariharan, who was the lead of that film, was the first, probably the second celebrity I was working so close with, and she was probably the mentor that I never had in the initial stages, or if I wish that she specifically was a beauty industry mentor to me, she could have literally like molded me into a better individual than I am today. But she was one big source of inspiration for me to kind of like get my things together. So she constantly kept showing me how big the world is, or how big this industry is, or how big the opportunities are. I was still very happy within the four corners of my cashier box at the salon, and I'm like, I'm a happy boss. I'm trying to get things done, and stuff like that. But she helped me kind of dwell out to real projects, kind of helped me, put me on areas where I'm in between shoots. I've called her up crying my heart out because it's 54 degrees Celsius. It's burning hot. My legs have boils. My makeup is not staying. I'm shooting in a country like Thailand. They've flown me all the way from here to Thailand, and nothing's working in my favor. Some times like these, you just want somebody to tell you that one magical tip and say, "Beta, ye kar do, aur theek ho jayega." But nothing works in situations like these. And for me, hands down, Shruti Hariharan has been somebody who's held my baby finger and walked me through every lane possible and waited around the lane till I finished my stroll in that particular area, metaphorically. So that she's been one big amount of inspiration. And apart from that, I have to give it to my parents. They've literally sat down with me every time to kind of see where we're going wrong or what it is that is going wrong. There was one situation where I was in a very uncomfortable space where there were a lot of men I was surrounded with. I was the only girl. I was stuck in a bathroom with 10 men outside the bathroom in a petrol bunk on like a very gloomy night, no power. So this situation actually kind of drew me away from everything I was doing. I was traumatized for a long time because of this experience. And my parents literally took it as their particular responsibility to turn this around for me. And after that, I haven't gone to any shoot or any bridal without my dad. So he used to take off from work, be my driver, my chauffeur, wait around in the car from morning 7 till night 11, just reading, just doing nothing, only because I could go do what I had to do for a minimum of probably could be just $5,000. But he just wanted me to be able to fulfill my, desire of doing a career or having a career that is substantial. So these are things that really helped me around to put this perspective.
Easy. Vaidurya, just one moment. I'll just put my laptop on charge. Just give me one moment.
Yes. I'll also put some fan. Can I just go down and grab some water? Will you give me a minute?
Really sorry about that.
Can I quickly go down and grab some water?
Yeah, please. I'll just pause the recording for a moment. Yeah, sure.
Thank you.
This is very perfect. So Vaidurya, thanks for sharing that amazing story with respect to the mentors that you found on the way of your journey, right? One is the actress that you spoke about, and Shruti, and then people at your Mumbai makeup class, and then the most important thing that you spoke of was your parents, and especially your dad, who supported you in all this journey, right? So according to you, what role do parents play in the whole career shaping up for you?
They were my cashiers. I'm not even kidding. So I was 19, and when I went up to them and I said, "Guys, I need to open a salon," my dad was very casually asking me, "So how much money do you need?" I've already blown up about 5 lakhs on my makeup course already at this point at 18 for being sick for the last 10 years of your life. So you're at a point where anything you do can be questioned for or against you. And so my dad asked me, "So how much do you think you'll need to do all this?" And I said, "I don't know, but I just know I want a salon. I want to open a salon because I've done my cosmetology. That's the closest I could do something about with my career." And my mom, being a banker, she said, "I want you to do a business plan and come back to me with a business plan, and then we'll see what to do." Now, I haven't got to school, not college. Now you're telling me to do a business plan. Well, all hail Google. I just went to Google. I said, "Google, give me a salon business plan." And then I downloaded it, tweaked it, gave it to my mom. Though she knew the jugaad I had done, she was impressed that I at least used my brain. So that showed that I was really persistent to do something with this. So that's when we went ahead and they actually, mortgaged the house that they presently stay at to get me a 50 lakh loan to start a business when I was 19 back at 2011. So for me, my parents were impossible. I still ask them, "What the hell was wrong with you guys? Like a 19-year-old asked you for 50 lakhs. What were you thinking before you even made that small decision?" So I still remember when we went to the bank to get my loan sanctioned, and this is the last moment. I'm in the conference room. I have all the officers sitting there, and they're like, "Nodamma, 100 varsha ide. You can repay this in 12 years. This is your thing. This is your thing. This is your thing." And I'm telling my mom, I don't think I'll be alive for that long. Do we really need to do this? I don't want to be taking so much of a burden. And my dad said, listen, it's in your hand. We stay in this house or we move out of this house. What worse can happen? These are the only two things that can happen. It's okay. Now that leverage is not a very easy leverage to hold on you, where they say we either stay in this house or we move out of this house. And they meant it when they said that we were in a very bad monetary position, because my treatment had gone on for about 8 years. I had gone to Greece for my treatment, so literally they had gone every little penny they had for their life and livelihood. um, they in fact understood that I'm such an amateur that I won't be able to run the show all by myself. They started taking this on their own. So my mom used to open the salon by 6 a.m. for the men crowd to come in, hang in there till about 8:30 in the morning and come back home at 8:30. My dad would get ready by 8:30, get to the salon and handle till 10. And me being the princess me would not wake up early, so I had to wake up by 8 o'clock. And I used to wake up at 8 o'clock, get ready, and by 9:30 I used to go to the salon. So this was the initial day bit. So once my career also started growing, and it was only because these guys made this so easy for me that I could go and venture out to different places and try my hand. Otherwise, you know how it is when you're running a business and you have so many employees, you can just not let a business run on an employee's hand, because you're doomed. In within no time, you're just taking an advantage of and you're gone. And even worse is you're 19-year-old and everybody is 35, 36, 40-year-old, where you can't put sense into them neither. And sometimes you're doubting yourself. Like, if they are doing it, then there is something right. I as an 18-year-old cannot question why they're doing this at 37 or 39. So that kind of helped me level up a lot of maturity to handle people, to handle circumstances. Um, so these guys used to literally finish their work again by 5 p.m. They're back at the salon doing their, accounting job, or they're like the receptionist, or they're like the cashier. And by the time they could get a hang of this, I was out there working with the movie industry. So for all the three of us, it was something that we were learning each day. And it was a new business altogether. So without them, I would not have been able to do this. They've literally been my Jadu Pocha guys. They've literally been my KEB guys. They've literally been my cashier. They've been my Ola Uber. They've been my Swiggy. Everything. There has been a time where my dad's a professor. Right now, he sits in Vidhan Saudha in the education department. He has actually cleaned up a haircut right in front of a customer, because a customer is waiting for an empty chair and there was no help available that day. So I could be doing that, but when I saw my dad doing that, or when I heard that my dad had to do that, it shook me. But it also instilled me that if he's not seeing dignity of labor, then he's doing it right, and you should not be too. So that was again a learning for me to say, tomorrow you open a hotel, you should know how to like wash your vessels. If you open a salon, you should know how to groom your own salon. If you do any business, you can have 10 people doing that job for you, but if you don't know how to do that job right, you will not be able to get 10 people to do it right. So that's something that I learned from there. And I think my parents are more talented than I am. Honestly, they did a lot more than I did.
Whoa, that's like a great story that you've shared, Vaidurya. Okay, on that note, I just have one more question that I want to ask you. You've been emphasizing the whole fact of having mentors, right? How should someone look for the right mentors, and how should we approach them? So I'll set a little more context to it. So I get a lot of messages on LinkedIn or Instagram. Hi, sir, how are you? There is no context as such, right? So I don't know how to respond to it. So I'm sure many of you also would be getting such kind of messages from young kids or students who are there in different colleges. And this for us, we don't know how to say yes, no, or what do we do about it, or do we just engage in a conversation with them and try to figure out? And sometimes we also get lost in the whole our own workday life, right? So if a person or a student has to find the right mentor, and he sees that this person is a potential mentor, how should he reach out to them, or how should he find who's the right mentor for that particular person?
First step to understanding who your right mentor is to have a personal approach to the person. No message is going to help you. No mail is going to help you until you pick up that phone, have a conversation, or you go meet that person in real. You're not able to understand what is the kind of equation you're going to be sharing with this person going on, and that equation matters a lot on what you're going to end up learning or not learning. And also it could be so many small nuances, like the way I talk. If you're not able to comprehend the way I talk, or comprehend the kind of sentence formation that I do, or the idea that I'm trying to translate here, because it's not something that is written there. I and you are going to read it in different languages and still get to the understanding that 1 plus 1 will be 2. It can be in Hindi or in Kannada, it will still be the same. But it's not the same with makeup. And if I have to let them to look at a person the way I look at them, then I'll have to literally, get them to undiscover everything that they think about this person and look at it with a fresh perspective. So when it comes to choosing a mentor, I would personally say meet them or talk to them to know if you both are at the same page or on the same page when it comes to the kind of ultimate goal you have about this career. Another very important thing is don't just go by social media, or don't go by the appearance of the person, or the whole fashionista part of a person. Go with the art. Just see how well versed they are with the art or the skill. And so many times it's not also about the numbers on the Instagram. It is about the quality of the work that the artist has. And so many artists, let me tell you, Yogi, may not be great artists, but they are great teachers. And we've also noticed this in the UPSC sector. There are so many people who fail UPSC but become some amazing UPSC mentors. So that is a very important part when it comes to choosing the right mentor, that it does not matter how successful they are, it is how knowledgeable they are. So understanding this is very important. Second of all, understanding what you're getting into, a clear understanding of what they are offering towards the end of it, what you are looking to get towards the end of it. And if you have specific goals, it's good to be specific about your goals to them, so that there is specific attention given. Otherwise you're just one amongst the herd, following the herd. So if you want to stand out, if you have a eye for something very different, then I think you need to find somebody who looks at it similarly for you to unravel those areas in the head. And another important criteria when you're choosing your mentor is also, understanding their base of learning. They can be a self-taught artist, but if there is no foundation of learning, or if there's no basic that has gone into them from somebody, then I don't think you'll be learning nuances of those basics. And most people today are just fluke teachers, and I am very, very disheartened to say that, being a teacher's daughter myself, or a teacher once in a while myself, that most of them do not know what they're teaching. Most of them are just blindly teaching. For example, when it comes to makeup, the biggest thing you need to be strong about is your color theory. Color theory is periodic table for makeup artists. If you don't understand color theory, you will not ever get anything right. And trust me, I can pick about 4 artists in the entire 850 artists that I mentioned to you today in Bangalore, who I can say that I am very confident about my color theory, because my mentor was very, very strict about me making sure that I knew that, if not anything, color theory was something that I had to be good at. So today I can point out hardly 4 or 5 people who know color theory, who understand the basics of it, and who are translating it to their students. There are academies churning out 15 people, 20 people a month. And even worse, I'm sorry to break this to you, but makeup just takes 8 to 12 days to learn, because it's just the art of knowing what brush goes to what texture of product goes on what skin, and what is the kind of brands that you need to use, what is the kind of finish that you want to achieve. And it's very easy to learn, and everything else from there is how we are going to pick one look from this, another element from this look, and put them together to create a new look. This is all your further work is going to be. It's about picking bits and pieces from all that exists out there and create a look each time. So for a matter of fact, when you're doing makeup like this, and when you're doing a course, so many artists are just like, made to do a course for 3 months, 4 months. And honestly, you don't need 3 months, 4 months doing the same thing, trying to figure out the first level of it. And this could be potentially the time that you already invested a lot of money. Makeup training, like I told you, is somewhere in between lakhs right now for as simple as 15-20 days course. But that is equally lucrative, because in the next 6 months they would have made twice the amount of what they put in, because the customer base is also paying you that much. But there are academies where they are having courses for 3 months, and my question is, okay, in 12 days the artist knows what they need to be doing. They could be using the next 2.5 months to go do free work, to put themselves out in different platforms, to present themselves, to make them known to the world, to kind of experiment, to make mistakes and grow on it, instead of being stuck at the mentor's studio trying to do what the mentor asked them to do day in and day out. Right? You're still not figuring out your way of doing things. You're still not practicing the way you are practicing what you will probably are insecure about. Like, even today, somebody looks at my makeup and they say, I like the way you do your eyes. But I know, honestly, I suck at doing eye makeup. My strength is in doing the skin. I can make anybody's skin look like natural skin with, even if you give me 10 layers of products, I know to make it look natural. That's my strength. But when people appreciate me for my eye makeup, I'm in my head, I know, I'm like, okay, fluke moment, take your limelight, it's like that. And if you don't give yourself enough time and opportunities to improve on things like this. So now that I realized face is my strength, I shifted my entire makeup process. I started doing my eye makeup first, so that I can do all the mistake, I can take all the risk, not be scared of wiping away everything that I've done, or not be scared of adding a little too much to what I've already done. So just tweaking around the process to make sure that I do my skin in the end, which means I have only 10 minutes to do it and I'm good at it. So 10 minutes is still a lot of time for me to do it, over having just 10 minutes to do my eye makeup, which is a challenge for me, because I will still not experiment. I will go back to doing my gold and one liner and say, hey, beautiful eyes. So these are things that you need to kind of understand and consider when it comes to choosing a mentor, somebody who's practical about bringing you onto the real world, somebody who's practically looking at equipping you with everything you possibly need to go out there, and somebody who's equally cares about their brand value attached to you. That is something that I see that a lot of artists don't have. The once they are done with their course and the money is taken, they have nothing to do with the student associated going ahead. Well, in my case, it's different, because I personally feel it's my burden or my responsibility to make sure my student represents a part of my brand. At any point, if somebody asks them who trained you, they'd be mentioning my name. And if there's something that's going wrong, it can really affect my future business as well. And it can or it might not, but I believe that it's good to follow this whole thought process to keep yourself grounded and to make sure you're doing everything and anything that's needed to make you feel satisfied and doing it diligently day in and day out. So yeah, things like these, I hope I answered your question at some point.
Totally. On that note, Vaiduri, I also have another question. Say, for example, you specifically spoke about them having to meet the mentor personally over phone, or say, come to them and meet them offline. But in today's world, right, there are people, at least I remember one of these guys has reached out to me from Karur. There's another boy who's reached out to me from Jaipur. And there's another girl who's reached out to me, I think from Bangalore only, but I'm not sure about which part of the town they're from. The problem is they feel that, okay, this is an easier way for them to connect with the mentor, at least get some sort of an input of whatever challenges they're going through. Do you still agree that they should still come to the offline and do the personal meet, or they could at least start some sort of an initial conversation there?
I personally feel nothing better than phone calls, even if you're not able to do a physical connection. Because see, it's not only about your commitment, Yogi, it's also about how much commitment the mentor is ready to give into your case. You know what I mean? And you won't know how much they want to be giving into this unless you have a conversation and see how much they're willing to,
put into you, correct?
To you, or do what is required for you to be doing what you want. And I also mentioned, like, a lot of people quit their well-paying jobs. A lot of people are at a point of life. I've had students where they're new mothers who are looking for a lease of life. They're just married, shifted from different cities, looking to prove to their family that they're worthy of something, and most times they are criticized and they're shunned in ways more than one or other. And for me, I feel it's a social responsibility that I take on myself when I agree to, train these people or to involve them into my business. Is fact that this can lead in permanent damage of a person. The fact that they do not land with a job post this, or they do not land with anything substantial post this, because of your lack of, a lot of things that lack from your end. I personally cannot deal with that guilt or trauma, because I would look at myself every morning and think, what did you do? Like, are you even, like, able to answer the fact that she doesn't have a living, or she's not able to, walk with her head held high only because you did not help her make the right decisions. So, it's very important you have somebody who thinks as personally as you want about your goals. And um, things like this can damage somebody's confidence. It can damage somebody's motivation, or forget their motivation. I know cases in India where parents will not believe you or encourage you to do anything if you do not excel at something at one point, right? So which means your family is going to stop supporting your dreams or your beliefs going on if you fail at something like this. And trust me, we as a society are just failing for people, waiting for people to fail at some point or the other, so we could point out and say, hey, yeah, right? So I personally I feel it's a huge burden on my end when I'm taking up, training somebody or mentorship. And I think it should be the case with everybody else as well. Or if does not come from the other end, I think as a trainee, it's your responsibility to go seek out these things for your own benefit, so that it's not a very cheap course. It's not a very cheap industry. You put in a lot of money. You put in a lot of money for your course. After the course, you put in a lot of money into your products. Like my kit alone weighs 18 kilos and is worth 5 lakh rupees as of now. So that is the kind of things that you come with. And every time I travel on a flight, I bear a cost of at least 5,000 rupees of damage in my kit, because people throw around my kit. There are glasses breaking, there are bottles breaking, and people may not realize how much it means to you, but these are things that you face every single day. And if you do not have that shiddat, I don't know if that's the word, the discipline within yourself, then it's very difficult to get it out from somebody else. And it matters, I guess.
Whoa, Vaidurya, thanks for sharing that. I think the fact that you brought the word shiddat, or the discipline or perseverance as another term to it, right, is something that's important in most any career that you take up. As long as you're disciplined and persevering about what you want to accomplish, I'm sure everyone would be successful. Beautiful. I think we've had an amazing interview, and I would like to ask this one question I've been holding on from quite some time. You've touched upon it for sure. You spoke about sanitation as a very important aspect, right? And currently, we're all going through the whole COVID situation across India, and I'm sure there is going to be weddings happening. May not be this fancy ones where a lot of people attend. It's going to be a small family kind of an affair. But I'm sure, as a bride or a groom, whoever is there, they would want to get themselves feeling good. And makeup is going to be an essential, no matter what the situation is. Makeup and bridal makeup and all this is going to be an essential part of every single wedding, at least in South India for sure. So in terms of sanitization, what are the amateur or newbie makeup artists should look into or be considerate about when they're looking into this profession?
Firstly, personal hygiene. Your body odor makes a huge difference, because you're working very close contact with people. And second of all, it could be your, it could be your hygiene when it comes to your dressing. Just making sure you're wearing clean, iron pressed clothes. You're not wearing clothes which are stained, because as a makeup artist, once you're done with makeup, you look like a paint palette. Right? You have colors everywhere. On your face, you have some chinmini. Then on your hand, you have a black liner. On your right hand, you have some pink color. So it's literally like you played Holi, like on a certain level. So it's very important that you do not translate this image before you enter the place and after you enter exit out of that place. So it's important that you understand those limitations around when it comes to presenting yourself. Another very important part is where it comes to your brushes, your cleaning your brushes, or the very hygiene of your kit. See, a kit can be inside a suitcase. Your product can be inside a suitcase for 1 year or 1.5 years and just be the same. But if they're organized every once in 3 months, they're in a better place and they're in a better condition, right? So that awareness, organizing yourself and making sure that your products are clean from the outside, not just inside. If there are like dried out patches on the bottle, then you're definitely not taking care of hygiene at all at any given instance. And something as similar, as small as, when you're using what do you say, lenses, colored lenses, something that we all use. Just make sure that you're not reusing it on other clients. Lashes, I've had a lot of my clients who come to me and say, when I use fake lashes on them and I have another event the next day with them, they ask me if they should be saving this up for the next day. And I'd be like, definitely not. And there are 99% of artists today who use one particular lashes on you and ask you to keep repeating that, and the lash hardly costs $100, right? And these guys are charging you 45,000 for this makeup look. So these are not very healthy practices to do, and sometimes it's good to be generous with your client because they need to be feeling the worth of paying you that money. So even if it involves just giving away 100 rupees lip balm, why not, right? If you are able to make sure that this particular product is going to enhance the way the makeup is going to look for the next 20 hours or so, or 10 hours or so, and it involves you spending 100 rupees and giving on to the client, then you might as well do it to make sure that your work pays off, your client is happy, and your image pays off. So things like this, and particularly if I have to talk about sanitization, using a hand sanitizer was not really emphasized before, but every makeup artist would not move around without a hand sanitizer in their kit, especially because the food you eat can have very pungent smell. So, there are a lot of smokers around. There are a lot of things that you touch, like for example, hairsprays have a chemical smell. Then your deodorants have a certain kind of chemicals that others might not be comfortable with. Anything. So understanding, small things, and always trying to keep everything around you subtle. Your perfume cannot be over the top. You cannot be over the top. Remember, you are just there as a tool and you are not the limelight. Something that a lot of people need to realize, that it's not about you. It's about making somebody else feel like it's their day. I've had a makeup artist friend. I don't know if I should be sharing this, but this woman puts on lashes, full-fledged glam makeup at 3 a.m. in the morning with curled tongue hair. I go with one kunde and glasses so I don't look like I just woke up. So this is the difference. But for me, I personally feel that when I am looking like that and the bride looks at herself, she's like, oh, I look better than her. This is a good day. Let's do this. But if you are so on the top, remember, every time the client looks at herself, she's judging herself with you, which is not the best thing to be doing. It's like judging yourself with yourself, because what you created on her is your artwork. It's your piece of work. And if you're not being, if you're not in a conducive situation where you're making your client feel like the limelight is on them, then it can actually take away the whole fun and joy behind it. So I'd say go easy, go subtle. It's not about you. It's about you.
Totally, Vaiduri. I think you've kind of summarized the qualities of a good makeup artist as such in this whole conversation too. Beautiful. I think I've got enough. I think I've got enough.
So when are you starting a makeup page, Yogi? When am I seeing competition?
I'm not going to be doing that. I'll probably create content on probably how people should take up this as a career, or how should they look at it as a career. That's primarily my intention of doing this, right?
Yes.
Vaiduri, just on that note, since we've not done the Facebook Live, let me just take a quick photo of us so that I'll be able to share that the Facebook Live was not, the video will be uploaded soon, if that's okay.
Let me look pretty.
It looked like this, and in the recording it looked different.
This is like my good profile, dude. Use one of these profiles.
Sure.
Oh shit, my glasses.
One second.
Shit.
I'll do another one.
How can you take
I'll
pictures
wear
of
other
me?
one. It's all getting recorded, so people know. So don't worry.
Oh shit. Okay, I'm good. I'm a good girl. You can take a picture.
Perfect. So on that note, thanks a lot, Vaidurya, for doing that. I think it's been a long interview that we've taken, but the amount of information that you've given, right, it's going to give a lot of clarity to people when they choose this career, and then they will not randomly pick up this career. They know what is going to be the nuances of this career. What is my life going to be if I become a makeup artist or if I get into the beauty industry for sure. So that's the kind of clarity that we were striving to
Yes,
give
I
them.
really hope a lot more people who have their heart and soul in this industry make a place here, rather than people who are just diverging into it for the sake of it, because it is something that we look forward to for bread and butter every day. And if a lot of people are just there for the sake of it, then it's actually taking away bread and butter from a lot more deserving people. So I really hope that this platform is able to like ask people the question whether they're up for all of these when it comes to an industry or a career like this. And if not, then there are tons of more. So nothing to worry.
Totally. That's the whole idea of doing this. I hope a lot of you found amazing value out of this interaction with Vaidurya. If you have any questions, if Vaidurya, if you can share your Instagram page or any other ways that people could reach out to you.
Yes, you can hit me up on Instagram. It's V for victory, Y for help me,
Yellow.
yellow. Yes, D for dog, U for Uganda, R for robo, Y for yellow, A for apple, Vaidurya, Lokesh, Lokesh. So it's a single word. You can type out that. And since I have a very unique name, anywhere you put Vaidurya, you'll be pretty much able to find me out there.
Totally. So I will also
But yes,
share.
thank you so much, Yogi. I'd like to take this time to kind of say thank you to everybody who probably tuned in to listen to my 2 cents on what I've been doing with my life. More than anything, I know this is a tough time. We've reached a sense of, what do you say, a dead end. I think all of us have reached a sense of dead end, not figuring out what is going to happen. Because for me, myself, post-COVID seems like a haze, because I don't know if weddings are going to be back on track as much as they were, or they're going to be as seriously taken as it was earlier, or people are just going to like do it as a very low-key affair. Um, a lot of questions within the industry, a lot of questions with how my business has to go, with the kind of choices I need to make for my business and everything. So it's a dark phase for most of us, but the good thing is all of us are starting from the start. All of us are at the bottom of the ladder trying to figure it out. So I think it's not too bad. If you look at it positively, you had like a refreshing time. You've realized that all of you are at the start of the race once again. So it's easy to plan your strategy and go on with a fresh perspective. And it's never too late to do something new. So I think it's amazing.
Thanks a lot for giving an amazing ending quote to it. Thanks a lot, Vaidurya, for doing this with us. See
Thank
you
you,
again.
guys.
See you
Thank you.
again
Have a
soon.
good night, and
Beautiful.
good luck
Thank
with
you.
everybody with whatever you guys are doing. And I wish someday you're out there on the other side of the webinar, like I am here, talking my experience and reaching out to a couple more people.
Beautiful. I'm sure that's going to happen, Vaidurya. Thanks a lot, guys, whoever is watching us today. It's been amazing listening to Vaidurya share her story, her perspective, her 2 cents about the whole beauty industry, and specifically about the makeup industry. That's been amazing as an interviewer to get so much of information and content from her for sure. I've loved this interview right from the moment of get-go. So tune in tomorrow. We will have another speaker, another completely varied, interesting career to interact with. Thanks, Vaidurya. Have a great evening then. Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
See you then.